right, let me start my sharing again. So like I said, it's kind of that light time of year, as Peter was saying, end of summer. So in terms of WordPress news and events, we mentioned this last month, but it's actually started today. Maybe
Okay.
that's why everyone's not here. It's WordCamp US in Portland is started today through the 29th. Obviously too late for anyone here to be attending, but keep an eye out for when this completes, especially after the 29th. In general, sessions do get posted, if they're keeping with tradition, should get posted to the, what is it, WordPress.tv used to be what the YouTube channel was, but certainly look at WordPress.org itself to see.
Yeah, it's on it's the WordPress channel, and as a matter of fact, I'll put in the chat right now.
Yeah.
Uh, they are going to live stream it starting tomorrow.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, because today was a contributors day or something I saw.
yeah,
And yeah, then the sessions. All right, that's great. So if the sessions can be live streamed, wonderful.
so they live stream it so you can check the schedule, and then what they typically do is afterwards they'll chop it up into uh, individual presentations. But and with these types of things, when they're streaming, you need to, if you go to the YouTube channel, you have to look under live, not just
Right.
video.
Right.
Because
Because you'll
sometimes
see the old, you're right. You'll see the old ones there. Right. So, yeah. All right. Excellent. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. Thanks, Peter. I assume they usually do it afterwards. I know that they're doing it live as well. So anyway, that'll be interesting. I'm just curious what things will come out of that. So maybe next month we'll do a little bit of recap of any. Generally, that's where the state of the word is typically happens. So last year was a bit of a bombshell one. So we'll be curious what kind of, hopefully no drama from this one this year. The other thing, not really drama, but I saw this. It came from one of the newsletters I get from, I think it was WPMU or like one of these newsletters I subscribe to for WordPress. But there's an interesting discussion that they brought to at least my attention through the newsletter about a discussion happening on the Gutenberg issues log about adding new blocks to the core library. And I'll send a link if anyone wants to read through this. So there's a discussion going on. I'm sure others saw this as well too, maybe through other like news sources, about adding. We talked about this actually for quite a while. I think we mentioned this maybe last time we really did kind of a deep dive of core blocks. That there still are some blocks that, depending who you talk to, are conspicuous by their absence. Things that seem like basic things like a tabs block, an accordion block, mega menus, slider, et cetera, et cetera. So they're using this issue number to kind of track these requests and sort of consolidate all these requests. And I think these are just the main ones that are being discussed for core. So there's nothing to say that they're going to necessarily put them into core. But I found the discussion, it's worth reading through a bit to kind of hear, because a lot of the discussion, the people discussing it are some of the core contributors, at least these days, to WordPress. And I thought there's a really good one. I know, I think Sue is on here as well too. And Peter, I think you probably know her at least maybe through just meetups and stuff. There's a really good comment on here from Amber Hines, especially around accessibility. I thought her comment in here is interesting. Like, she has this thing about, when we talk about these blocks, it's really that core question of, the argument is like, should they build these blocks into core, or should they continue to be block packages that are plugins, that kind of thing? And she brings up sort of this philosophical question of, who is WordPress for? Are these blocks, if WordPress is primarily a blogging software, then you have all the core blocks in theory that you need to really build a blog. But WordPress has gone so much beyond that, in the past several years. So she has a really interesting comment in here. Again, I'll leave this a link in here for others to read. But she even says that, and again, I think we all kind of felt this. It was nice to hear someone else to say it. She says, because some of these blocks don't exist, a professional website, built for a business cannot be built with core WordPress alone. Users have to turn to third party block libraries and builders, many of which have horrendous accessibility, you know, um, features. So I thought that I agree with that. I mean, we always talk about like when we recommend how you can build a new website from scratch. We at least Peter and myself, not to speak for you, Peter, but I think a lot of us say if you're going to start with something, at least start with something like Cadence, so you get the core blocks, and then you get these additional things that you can use. So it's an interesting discussion. Again, I'll put a link into it here. Who knows what's going to come of this, if any of these will actually ever become core blocks. But as we talked about before, WordPress, because of some of the stuff going on, again, we won't rehash that drama of the past several months or so. It does feel a little bit like things have been stagnant. And some of the thing I think about especially is the blocks. Like we haven't really had, I can't think of any, maybe I'm just not remembering any like major core blocks released in quite a while. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what kind of comes of this. So Peter, I don't know if have
Correct.
you heard about this
Oh
discussion? Have
yeah,
you seen any of it?
and I have, and I'll give you I have a counterpoint to it.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead right now.
Here's the counterpoint to it. So the the challenge slash that exists, and I don't want to say problem that I have, but a concern that I have is that WordPress core is this ongoing, ever evolving project, which is great. It gives us what we want. The challenge here is amongst everything else that they're doing, coming out with these blocks, there are just, even when they come out with them, the block packages that exist tend to be just better in a whole lot of ways. And a lot of times I'm looking at something and going, I'd rather have energy going into making sure that the platform itself is as powerful, as extensible, is all, instead of, and then embrace the fact that there are block packages that can help you build these things. I don't know if I personally need to have things work to build a site, out of the box, as Amber said. And I have great respect for Amber. I know Amber, and I agree with a lot that she says, but in practice, there are very often better ways to go. And then it's like, okay, so then the whole, where, undermining the ecosystem, and where do the best of the best that are developing
Yeah.
stuff now become sidelined because, well, now in core there's a form, block kind of thing, and it's like, well, there are form plugins that are phenomenal, are so far advanced that unless like WordPress were to take that, in effect, use that same code, I just
No, I agree. I think it's an
you know,
age-old thing about WordPress. So like, we don't want WordPress turning into Excel, where it's like, or Microsoft Word, where it's like everything's crammed in there, and
yeah,
like, 99% of people don't use half these things, but it's shoved in there. I think it's an interesting discussion. I mean, part of it too is
yeah,
you're right. It's
absolutely.
like I would also say some of the core blocks that are there are still half baked, So we talked
That's
about
what I'm
that
saying.
before. So should you maybe
100%.
finish those off first before you start adding new ones? But and I put a link to it in the chat. I think it's an interesting discussion as things come up later, and I'd like to go back to this thing myself at least and kind of reread or read if there's any updates to it to see kind of where it goes. So again, a little bit of light news month, so I figured that was something worth sharing at least. A tool or plugin spotlight, Peter. Not to put you on the hook as always, but you got anything good for us this
I
month?
do. I have two things. One is just a simple. Let me share the screen and let me paste the link. So let me share. So there's one tool, the link that I put in, so that accessibility is something that is very important, that I like to talk about. Aardvark, who is a provider of accessibility services, put together a package called WCAG in plain English. So WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is all the guidelines that talk about all the things that we should be paying attention to when building sites that are accessible for users of all abilities. And so we often think in terms of blindness or deafness, but mobility, cognitive, and on, all abilities. But the WCAG rules are very extensive and can be, when you're trying to figure it out. And they put this great little thing called WCAG in plain English, where it just kind of breaks down kind of the topics and, images of text. Text must be actual text, not images of text, unless a specific visual presentation is absolutely necessary. That's like the shorthand. And then if you go to view details, now you're going to get into what that means and all the WCAG stuff behind it and things like that. So as an accessibility reference tool, it is one of the nicest in that it is friendly, and it's just meant to be like, here's what it boils down to. So that's a good link to kind of to bookmark and come back to. The other thing I want to show is something that I think I've brought up in the past, but it was probably years ago. When you talk about our YouTube things being 5 years, we've got some of the things we're going to go through some of the tools, and this is just because, and we'll probably talk about some other things a little bit later in terms of like what we've been dealing with. But this was a tool I had to use, and that's the WP rollback plugin.
I learned about this one from you, Peter. I
Yeah,
installed this. I was religiously too.
exactly. But this was I ran into this great example of where, to kind of tell the whole story, an older site that we're redesigning, but the old site needs to be maintained. Things got updated, and yeah, you should do your regular backups. You can roll back to a backup, things like that. But in this particular case, it was like couldn't figure out why something stopped working, and there was nothing obvious. The reason it was not obvious is using some AI assistance, right? And that's another thing we can talk about is using AI to debug a problem on a site, which I did. So I actually gave it the HTML that was generated and the code and things like that. Come to find out, something that I thought had nothing to do with what was going on was actually coded into this older site to call up a function from a plugin that had since changed. So once I got that, all I had to do, so if I've got it installed on my demo site here, so I'm going to activate it. So the WP rollback. And what that then does is when you look at your plugins, now all of your plugins will have a rollback link next to it. So that, say, you were, I don't know, it doesn't matter. I looked at MailerPress, and then if I wanted to roll back to a previous version, when you click on it, it basically goes to the repository, looks at what's been archived, and then you can say, okay, let me go back to 2.3 or whatever. And that's what I needed to do for this. Was actually the Soliloquy gallery plugin that something was tied to. And I just had to roll that back. And what's nice about this is that if you can nail it down, now you have this just really quick way to take that one thing you need to roll back. It's also a way that you could go through that process of like, oh, I upgraded these 3. Now something's not working. Let me roll back each one, which is a little bit different than kind of the deactivate everything and go. That could be really kind of a pain in the neck when you have to go like start deactivating plugins and things like that. But in this case, it's like, hey, that I just upgraded that. I don't want to go through the whole restore from a backup and start. And I suspect in this case, and I knew which plugin it was. I rolled it back to the previous version. Everything worked. So
the main thing that I think you mentioned, Peter, is it only works for plugins that are on the repository.
On the repository.
Yeah, it does not work for paid plugins or things that are not on the repository. Yeah, that's the only time it's failed me. It's been for that.
Yeah, I mean the you could, if you have a premium plugin, you could use the same logic to go to that website and go download a premium and upload it, and then you'll get the little warning. It used to be so hard to do this. Now it's a lot easier. You can go through the same install process with WordPress, and where you used to never be able to load a plugin on top of itself. Now it says, hey, this is what you already have it active. This is what you're trying to do. Do you want to do it or not? It used to be you'd have to like FTP it or delete everything, stuff like that. It's a lot easier now. But yeah, that's a good point, that it does have to be in the repository, because it is pulling the links to the previously saved versions of things.
There is the other thing it doesn't do, but I think there's another plugin for it, because I had to do this on my demo site. Is it does not roll back, from what I recall, it does not roll back WordPress versions. Correct? Like if I want to go back to WordPress 6.7 for some reason, I think there's another WP, not WP rollback. There's like a WP core rollback or something. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
I think you're right.
not something I think most people necessarily need to do. I needed to do it just on the demo side, I think, last time, because I was on the beta and I wanted to roll back to something else.
So in case, there's another tool out there called plugins. .com, which applies a little bit better intelligence to searches. So sometimes I go to plugins first instead of trying to search the repository, because the repository can actually be very frustrating. Even if you know the exact name of something,
Yeah.
you can, so it might be 3 pages in for some crazy reason. It's like not enough downloads or something.
I tried searching as you were talking. I was putting the link for WP rollback. When you search a repository, if you put it there without a space between it won't find it.
Find it. Yeah, like generate blocks is one that, like,
Yeah,
something I use. It's always like, wait a minute, space or no space, because it won't find it, which is crazy.
yeah.
I think you might be talking about WP
It might
reset.
be, yeah. There was one that I had to use. It wasn't like super. There were maybe it was core
Oh,
rollback. Yeah, that's the
this,
one. Yeah, with the crazy
I
little
remember
guy.
the smiley face guy. I've used it. You're right.
That's
This
what I
is
needed. I remember the face. Yeah, so it's not something that most people will tend to need, but I did have. It was just the demo site where I think I wanted to go back and kind of clean things up. So
yeah, yeah. So look, a whole bunch of tips. But yeah, I do like, I like plugins as a way of searching, because you can be a little bit more conversational in your searches. The repository search is not good at that. And then it'll be really also interesting to see when we get into a point where, and maybe we can visit the topic of the pulling, not from the WordPress.org repository, but from alternate repositories is now becoming a thing. And there's a plugin that allows you
yeah,
to pull from other places, so that that reliance on WordPress.org as that single point of, single source and single point of failure potentially, or concern with the drama that happened. So there you go.
cool. Look at that. A bonus at the end.
There
That's
you
pretty.
go.
So again, summer school. I know it feels kind of weird when schools around here in Connecticut at least are starting to go back. I think Newington, they go back Thursday or something, but it's still technically it's still summer. It's not Labor Day. Uh,
Hey, Peter,
Yeah.
Go Bob.
if I could ask a question, you
Yeah.
mentioned the accessibility. Is there a particular plugin or tool that you've found to be that you really like?
Yeah. Well, I think the number one tool for checking that your site is accessible is the accessibility checker, which is by Amber Hines and her husband and their company. I will let me get the link. They have a free version and then they have a paid version. The free version allows you to kind of check on a page by page basis. And what's really phenomenal about this plugin is, if you have it active as you're developing pages, you have a section in your editor where it starts showing, okay, what accessibility issues there may be, and then you can link to solution. It'll say what you could do to fix it, why it's a problem, things like that. But in terms of like staying on top of accessibility, I think that is the number one tool out there. There's a new one that does something similar, but they just don't. I don't think they have the momentum, because Equalize Digital, the company that puts the accessibility checker plugin out there, also runs the WordPress accessibility meetup, and then the event, which is coming up in October, which is WordPress Accessibility Day, is done by them too. So probably the best resource. The best bit of advice is always with plugins and accessibility is, don't get caught into the trap of overlays, which are the one plugin solve all your problems. There's a lot more problems that they introduce. So the Accessibees, Userway are probably the two top. There are a number of others that basically put code on top of your site, and they actually get in the way of people who use their own accessibility tools. And we can look at those if you want at some point, but I'll drop some links in the chat.
Thank you.
Very good.
So Gene, to put you on the spot, Gene actually has a question for us to look at, which is a good way to warm up the crowd, warm up the.
Okay, well, okay. And if you want to pause and go back to something else, that's fine.
Oh, it's
Okay.
fine.
My client is running an event and they want an online form. I've made the online form. They're charging a $5 fee. It's a 5K race, but they don't take online payments. So what they want their client, they want the people when they sign up is to fill the form online so they can have a temporary list of people who are going to run, but they won't be actually given a number that day unless they've paid for it. And their choice is to come into the building and pay cash, or they can come in with a check and mail it. So I wanted to have, so when people, after they submit their form, when they get the confirmation where it says, congratulations, your form, we've received your form, have them be able to download the PDF that they just submitted. So when they send in their check, they can send the PDF. I'm using Gravity Forms. I have tried to follow their instructions. And when I go through the thing, it gives me the page and it says short form. And it just has gobbledygook form. It doesn't actually pull a PDF. It just tells me that I have a short form there. Does anybody know how
Eugene,
to make?
while you're talking, let me throw another idea, solution, suggestion out there, which is, can you, after somebody successfully submits the form, can you redirect them to a page that has
Yes,
the PDF
yes.
embedded? You know, 'cause it'd be a
Oh,
lot simpler there, and then they could do whatever.
I don't know. That would still have to be a short form though, wouldn't it?
No, because like, so I don't know about, I haven't used Gravity Forms in a while. It's open. I see Bob's nodding and Peter. Because I just use Fluent Forms, but most form builders and Gravity Forms, I'm sure, does this as well too. When somebody completes something, you can still do the whole email thing to them just for,
Oh, no. They are directed to a
yeah.
page.
But I'm
So
saying you
their
can
confirmation, they go to a page.
redirect them, like create a page that you can redirect them to. That's the thank you page and all that kind of stuff. And then have the
Yes.
button where it says, click here to download the
Yeah.
form that you then
Yes, that is
print.
what I have tried to do. So instead of putting a short code in, how do I get the, and if I say, click here to download your entry form,
Just do
how
a
do I
button.
get it so it's their entry form and not Joe Smith's entry form?
Oh,
Just
so you
use an
want to,
anchor with an href pointing to the file in your media library. Right,
but
because
you
are
want,
you dragging the PDF into if you put the PDF in the media library, you can just create a link.
no, I think Bob, if I'm understanding, Gene, you want a pre-filled in PDF with what they've typed into the form, into the online form,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Ah, okay,
So when
okay.
they
That's,
send in their
yeah.
check, they can send in a paper copy of the PDF with their entry form. Just make sure that this is the $5 check for this entry.
Ah.
That's tough.
Well, have you considered using something like Eventbrite? Because I have one nonprofit that I work with, and I just use an iframe with the embed form from Eventbrite, so the form is right there on the website page, and they can just send their money in that way, and then you have all the records all in a nice little database.
I said that to her too, Bob, but early before
Yeah.
I joined. But I think the thing with Eventbrite would be, correct me if I'm wrong, because I only used it for free events, which I guess that's technically that's what.
Well, Eventbrite takes a percentage, right? So you can
Yeah.
either have the people, pay the percentage, or you can pay the percentage yourself. You have the option of one or the other.
But she's saying the town does
So,
not want online payments because,
yeah.
They probably don't want to store the credit card records. All of the credit card records will be stored in Eventbrite, so the town has no liability.
Okay, so if we set up an Eventbrite account rather than doing it in Gravity Forms, they would handle the money. They would send the forms. They would send the money to the town minus their
also,
percentage of the entry fee.
Exactly.
not
Okay.
only that, the other, like if you really want to sell it to the town, Eventbrite also promotes it too. They do marketing of events, just like Meetup.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
if you have an Eventbrite account, I don't use mine that often, but they'll send emails just like Meetup. They'll say, hey, here's events happening in your area, so they'll promote it, at least virtually kind of thing. So it'll give it more visibility, and it's easier to share on social media and all that kind of stuff too. So it's basically like creating like a Meetup event or a Facebook event, but you create it through Eventbrite.
Okay. All right. I'll look into that. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
Meetup now does also take some payments, but I just don't like the interface of Meetup at all. So
Hmm.
Eventbrite's much easier to use.
Yeah. Meetup charges $300 a year too.
Well, that too.
Yep.
So
that was too easy, but let's pretend there was no such thing as Eventbrite. Is there a purely WordPress solution for this? I just think it is a thought experiment. And again, Gravity Forms, I assume, would have something like this. So let's say the output of the form submission, can that be used then to populate a PDF?
Yeah,
Which can be
Would
forwarded.
you need to write a JavaScript and have it execute on submit?
I would think
no,
there's probably
Gravity Forms
Form.
says you can just add a short code, and the short code that for my form, when I put it in, because when you make up the form, it tells you what the short code is. So I took
Yeah.
that short code, put it on the page for the page that's your application confirmation, and it doesn't give you a link. It just says short code http:/docs. It doesn't do anything.
it says the word shortcode on the output.
Yeah, hang
So-
on. I've got a dozen pages open here.
Okay. Because
Okay.
the first thing is making sure that you're actually putting in a shortcode and it's not converting it into text.
Okay. Yeah.
so that-
So it says
Step
the
one.
entry fee may be included with a completed registration form to be registered for the 5K. The next line says http docs gravity pdf.com v6 users short codes and merge tags. When I put in
Can you show
on the page,
Gene, can you share your screen? Is that okay? So we can.
sure, yeah, that's fine. I didn't know if I was allowed to do that yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I made you co-host so you can share. And Gerald, I see your hand raised too. So
Okay. I don't know what I'm going to need, so I'm going to share my whole desktop,
that's fine.
and then I'll put you guys down in the button so you don't have to look at yourselves. Maybe. Okay.
Yep. Looks good.
All right. So this is the short code that I put in.
Oh, so it's the one below it.
And then this is what happens on the confirmation page.
Because that's not a shortcode.
Right.
So if you go back to where you were,
Mhm.
shortcodes are in square brackets. So that is just a link.
It's the one below.
What about this one?
Yeah.
What about this one?
That is a shortcode. So the reason you're seeing the HTTPS is because that's exactly what you put in there, and that's not a shortcode. So I guess my question is, where did you get that? And
I
why?
think it said to put this to be the link. Gravity Forms says, and then you add the link to the PDF. But I can delete that. I can delete this, and we can just go with a 1 and see if that works.
Well, I guess the one thing that's still throwing me here is this page you're on right now, Gene, where it has that ID equals 689376, et cetera, et cetera. Are we looking at a page you had submitted one, and this is the confirmation page we're looking at for a submission?
No, this was the short code. Wait a minute here.
Yeah, where did the shortcode come from, I guess?
There's so many of these things. What am I doing? I'm doing the 5K. Okay.
Yeah, is that the form ID or is it the registration ID?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I was working on pickleball that had the thing. I was like, oh, this is what I did before. And it worked. And it's like when I went to do it again, it didn't work. And I have no idea what I did before. Okay.
And Michelle, I see your hand raised too. We'll go to Gerald next, but I want to see exactly where did this come from. Was it Pickleball Clinic? Was that the one you're doing, or what was the?
Yeah, I tried doing because Pickleball Clinic, that's not live anymore. That's over. So no one's going to be looking for it.
The one you were showing, what was the
Yeah, but if the pickleball clinic one was working, why don't you take a look and see how that was set up and then set it up?
No. That one wasn't working. The one that I showed that had the 2 things in it, that was working. So I was trying to convert it from last year to this year. And then I did something that it doesn't work anymore, and I don't know how to fix it. because it seems so simple on the instructions, and you just put the short code here.
Yeah.
So here is the, I guess this is the, so here's the form.
That was the one that was working last year.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I don't think this is going to go anywhere. Wait a minute. I want to make sure it's not going to go to anybody. Hang on.
So Gene, while you're doing that, can I ask a question?
Oh, you made me think in two different things?
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Sorry. So the link that you would put in there, and then looking at what it takes to output form entries as a PDF,
Yes.
are you using a third-party plugin called Gravity PDF? Because
Yes,
okay, so that's the first thing,
That's where it's coming from. That's a shortcut right
Okay.
there.
right? So one is making sure that that plugin is active, right? So
Mhm.
there's certain things, and also another thing is that your site is set up for it, so it needs to make sure that certain things are happening on the server side and the PHP version and things like that. So Ray and everybody, so Gravity Forms, fantastic form plugin. Like Ray, I moved to Fluent Forms for a couple of reasons. One, getting a lifetime deal to it, and it works well. And they do a lot of things in their pro version that extend the capabilities of Gravity Forms, this form builder program. But what they don't have, as far as I checked again, I haven't used it in a while, and it looks like they do not have PDF generation as part of Gravity Forms, which is why Gravity PDF as a third party plugin
Mhm.
plugin exists to do this. So basically running hand in hand. So whatever the going from Gravity Forms and outputting it as a PDF is based on the functionality of the Gravity PDF plugin. Then it's like, one, is that set up right, and two, is your server got what it needs? So I mean, the good news is that if you need to troubleshoot this, it's less of a Gravity Forms and more of a Gravity PDF plugin troubleshooting that needs to happen here. So just in terms of focus.
Now,
But
for
before
the-
digging into that, could I just ask one simple question, Gene? So this
Sure.
was the form. So this is your confirmation in Gravity Forms, and it has that short code in there and that little
Mhm.
field.
Mhm.
Is the confirmation set up the same way in the new one? Because
Oh, no.
here, that short code there, that's supposed to happen after execution. So if this is not the same, then that might be your issue right there.
Okay, so if I fill out this form,
Then
Then
it looks like it's
it
going
looks-
to execute that short code, right?
okay, all
Right,
right,
it's going to go
so,
to that page with that short code. So copy that short code
Well,
just in case. And then
Yeah.
if you go back to the other one, because this is the one from last year that was working, right?
mhm.
So if you switch the form to the one that you're having the problem with, is this confirmation set up the same way? Because I used to do a lot of fun stuff with Gravity Forms over the years, but it's been a couple years since I've really used it a lot.
Okay, so do I add another short code?
No, well, no,
Right.
well, this is, no, you don't edit it here. You edit it back in the forms, in the Gravity Forms editing screen.
Right.
Is that
Oh,
what this is?
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Back in the forms.
Yeah, because you want to go to the confirmation for the form that you're having problems with.
Oh, go back to that one.
So the
Yeah.
new form that you've created.
So I think
Okay.
you get the pop down, the little pull down menu there. You should be able to switch forms there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now go to confirmation. Yep, default. So edit that. There you go.
Yeah.
That's where you need to paste that code.
Okay. Thank you.
I
So
still don't
save that
know.
confirmation. Now see if that works.
I think it's not gonna, but I'll save my comment for after.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, this was doing a redirect, but there was no short code in there to redirect to.
But I think you're copying a code from another form. You're trying to.
That's right.
she's trying
But
to
it's
find
the
this
same
form.
interface, though. Well, the ID may be different. That's
So
true.
IDs can be different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the form is going to generate a new ID,
Yes.
unique and specific to that new form. You can't use the old.
Hang on. This was it. Okay. I'm like, oh no, because this one is live. So, and it actually going to somebody. All right. But I see how you're thinking. I'm
Yeah.
going to
And I
just,
think the real thing is going to be in the documentation, as Peter said, of that Gravity PDF. That's
Yeah.
the place that's
Okay.
going to tell you how to connect all this together to pass the data.
Yeah, one concept
Okay.
that's really important to keep track with Gravity forms and with Fluent forms and with all of them is that all these little functions are unique to each form being generated. So
yeah.
while you can follow the model of something that was done before, which makes a lot of sense, you can't use the code that was generated in one in another because they don't have anything to do with each other. So
Right.
Yeah. I make a new PDF for every form I make. That I make a new PDF because that's what the client wants. They don't want just the email with the information. They want a PDF that they can punch holes in and put it in their binder.
yeah,
Hey,
So they
yeah.
want the PDF.
Jane, before you
Okay.
stop, before we leave this, can you
It's-
do me a favor? Click
yeah.
on the PDF one, that little on the left there. Just click on that for a second. I just want to see what's in that option.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Or yeah,
Because I changed it. Okay.
just click on that for just for a second,
Okay.
and then
I did that copy thing.
can you edit that Gravity PDF? There's an edit thing
Yep.
there. I'm just curious if this is where you're actually going to get the code from. Is there anything else down this? Notifications, font size, PDF, blah, blah, blah. Keep going. Anything, this is a long thing here, but is there some place on here where there's an actual key or something? Keep going.
There's a, let me just go back a step because it has, there, it has short code copy right here. That's
Gotcha.
where I got the
That's
short
what
code
it
from the other
is.
thing.
Yes, that's the one you have to copy that's specific to your new
Correct.
agent.
And then that gets pasted
Yes.
into the confirmation
Right.
screen, right?
So
Yeah.
if you do that right now, I assume the ID is going to change. Not that page, but back on the Gravity.
Okay, wait a
form.
minute. See, because I was doing the one that was live. Okay.
Yeah. So back on Gravity Forms itself.
Okay.
This page is dynamically generated.
Just for reference, I pasted the link in the chat to the Gravity PDF documentation that references how to get the download link.
Oh.
Yeah, that's probably what I probably didn't understand that, and I started clicking around.
I think you were getting close though, but it was kind of like what we said. I think in the Gravity, in that PDF option, you copy that short code and then you paste that, if I'm understanding it properly, into the confirmation section there, because that's what's going to link those two things together, I believe.
I think so too. And I think the only difference between last year and this year would be the change in the ID.
Right. Right.
Okay. So now I'm editing the form.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I think it's in settings actually. Yeah, you go to confirmation.
Confirmations. Yep. And then if you still have it in your clipboard, if you haven't changed your clipboard, it should be underneath the edit. And then there, if you paste that key, I didn't remember what the old one was, but this should be a different key than what the, if you had copied this from that PDF.
Yes, I copied it from from 2 minutes ago, because the one we had before that, it ended in 959.
Right.
And this is T2E.
So try saving this.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can test it with a notification that goes to you instead of somebody else.
Well, it looks like there's no notification. The confirmation is only going to a new page. So
yeah. But the notification, see here, the notification.
Yeah, it's that.
It's going to me and to the recreation director here.
Okay, well, you can just turn that inactive for a second.
Yeah, delete her. Yeah.
Goodbye, Nicole. You troublemaker here. Okay.
Let's see. I'm curious what's this going to do. Gender is required too. And don't miss gender. You need gender up there, Gene.
Oh, I missed my gender. Oh
Yep.
no. I'm gonna get rejected. No, it's not here. There's the page and it's not here. All right, I'll figure. They've gone
Yeah.
2 weeks without knowing, not without doing this, so they can go a little bit longer. I'll keep playing with it on a test thing. People have had their hands up for a while. I
No,
don't
it's
want
all
to
right.
take up the whole meeting.
This is good. Thanks, Gene.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
check. I would check that documentation and just go through it because it's very specific that you have to, copy that, where to put it, and things like that. So
Yeah.
if it worked before, then your server
Okay.
should be set up to. It's literally just grabbing the right code, putting it in the right place. And I think that documentation might help you do it if you just go.
Yes, I copied and pasted too many things in too many different places and lost track of it. So.
Things lost. Gerald,
Anyway.
you've had your hand raised. What's up, Gerald?
Yeah, another alternative that you might consider, Gene, is use a automation tool like Zapier or Power Automate or something, and process the form through that, and it can generate it. It can generate the PDF for you. It can even email it to the people that submitted it, so they don't even have to worry about copying it. They just get one sent, and you can send it to you or anybody else that you wanted to get that PDF file.
That is a good point. Yeah, we haven't done, Gerald, that's good. Like, I know I talked about that a couple of years ago, Peter, but we haven't really talked deep dive into like if this, then that things or Zapier, or those kind of post automation things. But those are extremely powerful. They can get complicated at times, but yeah, they allow you to do a lot more downstream stuff outside of your site, including transformations and just other automations. So if all else fails, that's a good idea, Gerald, too. That could be another piece.
I've done automation to actually add fields into a SQL database
Mm,
and add records automatically. So, I mean, there's a lot of power, like you said.
yeah. Cool. Good ideas.
Yep.
You're on
Good
mute,
idea.
Gene, but we know you're saying that's a good idea. I'll add it to my pile of good ideas.
Yeah.
Michelle, you have your hand raised.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hi.
So I have my question is kind of general. So I'm doing a website for myself. I'm not like a professional, person. A couple years ago I built these two sites that I haven't updated in a long time, and I want to basically refresh and repopulate the content. So I host with Flywheel. I'm looking at using Cadence, like a pre-built template from Cadence to, build a web site off of. And so I'm just curious. I'm going back and forth between I looked into a staging, like setting up a staging site, but from what I'm seeing, it pulls everything from the database that's already there, right? And then kind of like recreate the site from that versus just starting completely fresh.
Yep.
And so I just was wondering what your guys' feelings were about like best practices. And, I kind of want to approach it with fresh eyes. So I don't want to just regurgitate what's already there with a different look. So
Okay.
I was
Can I ask some
curious what you guys
questions,
think
and
about that.
then Peter can chime in here too. So in terms of what do you actually want to save? So was your old site, did you have like blog articles or things in it that you do want to save?
Yes, one of them I do.
One, okay. Because that makes a big difference. So like a few of them, actually, blog articles, there's other tools to export them into a completely fresh new site. So you don't need to clone a site or, like a staging site in order to just copy over things like that. But if, let's say, if you did say, oh, I want to keep, I've got all this complicated stuff and all that, that's when you do want a staging site, because then you could put a new theme and make it look different. But if there's a lot of content you want to save or history of things, and that's the thing too, if you're starting from scratch, you're basically are doing a redesign. So you'll have to account for that in some sense, if it matters or not. So what I mean by that is, like, I did this redesign for a site recently, that historical society site. I had to do a bunch of redirects because their old site structure was completely different than what I built.
Mm.
But that was an intentional thing, but I had to account for that. But if it was like a personal site and you're like, no big deal. It wasn't like it was ranking #1 in Google, then yeah, start off fresh. So, Peter, Flywheel, I haven't used, I just use the Flywheel free tool. Do you have an experience on Flywheel? Can she run multiple instances, I assume, or?
Yeah, so Flywheel, you can set up the staging environment, which is exactly what you're explaining, which is basically you do all your work there and you push it to the live site. But it's assuming that you are making changes to that site. So yeah, it would move over, copy the database, things like that. My recommendation for you, based purely on what you said, is that you can find any number of places, including locally. So the tool used to be called Local by Flywheel of all things. Now it's just called Local.
Local, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get the link and put it in, where you can start building a website on your own PC, so you don't have to host it separately. Because the one thing that Flywheel, while it gives you a staging site, what you really want is you just want to start building a site in a separate place. So the easiest and least expensive, as in no expense at all, is to use, a tool like Local that allows you to spin up a site on your own computer, build it out there, and then you can take that and migrate it into whatever hosting you want, whether it's still with Flywheel or with a new site. Based on what you said, too, is yeah, I would start from scratch, because I've done this a number of times where sometimes, and we've even done meetups just on this very topic, where you can get so caught up in trying to migrate things that you're spending far more time than you need to, than even, and like right now, I'm even working on a site now where it's literally faster to go to the front page of the rendered page, copy and paste it in, because even the blocks are rendered differently there, and the copying and pasting is much cleaner. WordPress is very clever on understanding how to copy and paste into the block. So if I tried to take that original code and work it, I have to jump through far more hoops than if I just copy and paste from the rendered page. But it sounds like, coming out of fresh eyes, design something you like, start building out your content, and then export, go to the site you have now and export the posts, right? Because you wouldn't really be exporting the pages, because you're whatever those might be, you're doing those new. Export the posts, and I'm going to try to find, I just had to go through something where I found a tool that made it so much easier, because it added the functionality of also exporting, and this is a small thing, but it's a big thing, exporting the media files along with it, and uploading those into your when you import, it uploads all the images where you want them, and it corrects all the URLs, which is a huge time saver. And why that's not in core, that's going back to what we first talked to right at the beginning, what should be in core, a better import export tool would be very handy. In fact, I think they're working on it
Must be part of data liberation thing, allegedly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle, do you know what version? I'll just share my screen for a second. So on Flywheel, do you know what version of hosting plan you have? Because I'm curious if you have, because having a staging site in general is not, at least for like some hosting plans I'm familiar with, is not typically a starter thing. You typically have to be at least into the freelance. Do you know what version of hosting you're on?
I'm not sure, and I've been with them for a long time, so I'm not sure
Yeah, because I
You may
would,
actually,
different
you may
than
actually be even grandfathered in. So with Flywheel,
yeah.
it was at tiers, but then when they first introduced staging, they gave it to everybody, and then even people who were on like the
Okay.
$15 a month tier had staging. So you
Okay.
basically have to see if you have that tab on your admin if you have staging, but it will spin up your live site but in a staging environment. So
Because yeah, I was going to say, because otherwise, if you were on something like if you were on a freelance type of thing, then you should have the ability to actually just create a blank new site. You don't need a domain on anything. Like I have a similar thing on SiteGround where it's a lot more than this, but basically I can create new sites and just get rid of them if I want to or whatever, or eventually migrate them. So
that's a good point too. I should look again and see how many
see
sites
how
I
many
can.
it gives you. Yeah, see how many it actually allows you to have. So um because that could be one thing. And just a final thing on staging itself too is I'm not I'm not really sure if you'll have to look at the options there. I'm not sure if you actually have to copy the live site into staging because I've used what was the other one, WP Engine, I think allows me to create a staging site without copying. It's just because staging, if you have a good hosting plan, staging can also push. It's a two-way street. You can do your changes in staging and push them to a live site. So that's another way to build something completely new on staging and push it eventually to a live site. So it doesn't always have to be a poll. Most people do, but it doesn't always have to be a poll. But it depends on the hosting platform that you have.
yeah, that's a good point, right? In that, so one of the reasons why you would use hosting like Flywheel at goflywheel.com is that it's managed hosting and it's really easy, right? So your admin interface is very, very simple. They handle, in fact, they don't let you um, use certain plugins because it's built into the platform. So some of the security and caching and things like that. Um, so their staging is meant to be very easy too. But while I said that it ties it in, I think it'll say, oh, you want to set up staging, and then you click and its wheel spins and then it tells you, hey, great, your staging site set up and it looks just like it. You could completely then delete content, put in a new theme, things like that. But you are deconstruct. It's not like you're starting with, you know,
Yeah, you're
although
So
I'd
you
be
can have some chuff, you can have some stuff left over.
if you went to if you did it staging and then used like a WP reset plugin and basically scrap the whole thing, I don't know. That's over engineering. And by the way, if you accidentally said push that live, then you've lost everything. And you don't want
yeah, that sounds a little risky to me.
Yeah.
I think using a local
Yeah.
tool and start building it out, importing the thing.
And it's great. Yeah, if you haven't used it, we did a session on it a while back, like Peter said, and the tool itself has changed. I will say, if you're on, are you on a Mac or Windows,
I'm on
Michelle?
that.
Yeah. I hope it works for you. It's the one thing is it got kind of broken depending on what version of Mac OS you have. There's a whole wacky thing now with again, you may or may not need it, but the SSL certificates, you Windows people, you don't have to worry about this, but there's a whole workaround where the current version of Mac OS, it thinks that your local SSL certificate is not valid. So you got to do this whole crazy signing thing. It, everything will work on your site. You'll just, when you're testing locally, you'll just get this wacky message saying, oh, this is not secure. Just ignore it. And you can still do everything else. You can still push it to, the live site, but for some reason, that's still broken, unfortunately, on Mac. So just FYI.
Okay. All right. Well, that's helpful. You guys gave me some things to think about, so appreciate it.
Bob, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I have one other idea because I've a similar situation. I've got one client who is transferring, they need to do more than what their current Wix host is doing, right? So I'm in the process of changing them to WordPress. And I had a domain that I wasn't using. And so I'm just using that as a staging area because they don't have a WordPress host yet. So I'm getting it up and running on a WordPress host and I'm dumping everything into there. And then once that's all ready to go, then just use like all-in-one migrate or one of those tools, and then you can just dump it into just about any word site. And then you're not interfering. You don't have to worry about accidentally hitting a push, to go live button or anything like that. It's often its own little domain, and you just got to be careful about using, relative URLs instead of the absolute URLs. But then it works. And so far, I'm about 80% done with this project now. Finally get all the freaking 120 block. Gosh, I don't know why anybody would ever use Wix, but that's where they were. So, getting content out of Wix is literally like pulling teeth.
It's copying and pasting, like Peter said. But
it is.
You're right. You're bringing up I did that with this historical society thing too. I had my own. So when I was building, I was using my own hosting, and their own hosting is this crazy old. It's like network solutions, type of thing. I will say the one thing with that, maybe you haven't run into this because I'm not sure about how Wix does it, but this is back to what we've been working on this summer. But I think prior to last time we met, I was about to launch the site. The only pain in the neck thing I found with the site I was rebuilding was they had all their email accounts were built on their old hosting thing. So
yeah.
So I had to they're still keeping the hostings. They need the email boxes. So I just basically point the website, the domain record over to my new hosting, but I had to leave all their MX record, all that stuff in place on their old hosting. So there's ways around that. I need to talk to them because again, they're change resistant people. So it's easy for me to say, well, just, point to this new thing and get all your emails there. But they're like, what are you talking about? So I'm just, take it slow. Just FYI, something to be aware of. That so you switch it over to yours, and yes, careful if there's any email boxes. But again, Wix, I think Wix does let you also create emails. I'm not sure if it's on their platform, if they do it through like Office or something.
Well, fortunately, my client has their email being hosted elsewhere and not Wix.
Goodness.
All Wix does is their website, so I don't have to deal with those issues, fortunately. But
yeah. That's the one thing. Again, it's funny because I've steered. Wix is one thing, but like, what's the other one? Squarespace. I've steered people towards Squarespace, and I haven't felt bad about it, even being a WordPress developer, because some people are asking me for something where I'm like, you know what? I can tell from the client or the person. Some of it wasn't clients. I'm like, you can build this thing yourself. They're comfortable with Canva and that kind of stuff. Like, you can build the site yourself. It's a simple one-page thing, and in that case, it's an all-in-one bundled solution with the domain and e-commerce and all that stuff. Where generally, rule of thumb is don't do that. Don't bundle everything because it's hard to untangle. But for some people, whatever, it works. Or
there remains that ongoing good conversation about why use WordPress in the first place, and I think the number one answer is the flexibility that you have to be able to put it where you want, to be able to add things to it, to be able to. I'm doing a lot more with AI where it's so easy for me to add functionality to WordPress because the open source code is out there for all the AI tools to understand how it works, so that when you want to create something on your own, you can make that and install it and make it work. You can't do that on the closed platforms.
I will also say, giving another little plug to AI, especially the newer versions too, Peter, like when I was doing this whole thing about migrating from their hosting thing to SiteGround, I think I was using ChatGPT for it, but I specifically did, again, Peter talks about this too previously about putting in the context of I am a WordPress developer, but all before you put your prompt for ChatGPT. And I was as specific as I could to say I'm moving from let's say a HostGator or Bluehost to SiteGround. It was now, because again, it's able to read all of their documentation. It was spot on. It was like things I was like, I'd have to search through SiteGround's help forums and things like that. It was like, here's how you do it step by step by step. And it was spotless. What I did, I was like, wow, okay. Again, I could have found it myself. It's not like this was, secret knowledge, but just having to look through Bluehost documentation, SiteGround documentation, it brought everything together. I'm like, that's to me, that was a really powerful use of it. So something definitely to consider.
I've been using it heavily to try to figure out how to do stuff. It really is amazing at that, because it'll find exactly the right little CSS attribute, whatever that you're looking for, that just kind of puts it in the right place. It really is amazing with that stuff.
Yeah.
You still do need to, like, for the CSS stuff. When it was a couple of months ago where I did the one of the, well, that was the one built into Chrome. It was still, again, maybe it's gotten better. Gemini one, it would give me way too much fluff over what I wanted to do. It was way over solving the problems. Where eventually I was like, I knew the solution was one line. I'm like, let me test it and see what it's doing. It was giving me so much just extra garbage. I'm like, but that also could have been me, blaming the human instead of the computer. I'm like, well, maybe I was just asking it the wrong way. So it's, and you still have to know, you have to evaluate what you get for results, which is common for any AI. So
I dropped a link in there just because this is also, the topic of if you were to move, and Ray, what you had said, Migrate Guru is still to me one of the best ways of being able to use this free plugin to say I'm moving from this place to this place. So when you set up the site on your new host, you put Migrate Guru on both sides, and then it basically says, okay, on this side, here's what you need to put on the other side, and it uses Blog Vault and moves everything over. It's a really
I do that through.
I've moved dozens of sites using it. So
I've done it through. So I've managed WP. Is it managed WP? I get the two of them mixed up. Not the one that's in trouble with what's his face, Matt there. I think it's around. It's managed WP. So managed WP is the one that I use to manage my clients' backups. There, I have what do you call it? Uptime alerts set on that. I have security scans, all that kind of stuff. And it's usually when you bundle, if you get like more than 10, 15 clients, it's like $1 a month or something for them. But I think in their free tool too, they have a migrator as well. So it's the same thing. So as long as I put it doesn't have to be a managed WP site. As long as you put the migrator tool on one and the other, it handled doing the move from and to restore from the backup too, the same kind of thing to a blank site. That was another. They had that clone option, which was really neat. If I can bring that up, if folks are interested. If you've never seen, and there is a free version of it too. Let's see if I could find one just to show you what it looks like on a site. 1 second here.
Yeah, while you're doing it, I've even used like Migrate Guru of all things. You can go to one of the Taste WP or Insta WP where you can set up a site and start building a site for free, an instance for free there, a temporary site, or even amazingly on the Playground. And I'll put the link in there if people haven't used Playground yet. You can literally put a migration build something over there, put a migration plug in, and then migrate out of it depending on what's running out of your browsers. There's times it will and won't work, but it's pretty amazing some of the stuff that you can do with some of these free tools like InstaWP and Taste WP.
Yes, this one again, I think, and I'll talk about this just for a couple of minutes because it's one of the random topics we probably don't touch upon too often. But where you would use something like this is if you're managing multiple sites. Let's say being able to build more than one site, for example. What this is that me or someone else? Your audio is going to. So what this allows you to do is really add multiple sites on here and do updates across all of them. So where I typically use this for is plugin updates. So I also, for like this site, this is one of the a nonprofit animal shelter thing that I just do it for volunteer for them. It's kind of my donation, but a lot of these things are free. So backups, for example, even if you have a site that has its own backups, it's nice to have a second, a belt and suspenders thing. So there's different versions. The free version, again, this whole thing is free, but the free version of backups, I think is just maybe it might not be nightly, it might be once a week thing, but for a site that doesn't have a lot of content changes, that's good enough. And then the nightly backup is literally like, again, if you have multiple clients, it's like less than $1 for that. And you can add on additional things. So I have uptime monitoring on a few of these. So if the site is down for longer than you can set your time period, if it's down longer than 15 minutes, I'll get an email alert. I mean, there's other things you can do too. So it has, performance stuff, malware scanning, all those kind of things. But what's cool about it is it also has this clone thing. So this site did have an issue. Right before I went on vacation, as they always seem to have issues. So I used this to migrate it just to my hosting temporarily because their HostGator thing was just having issues. So because I had backups that I had been making, I was able to use the clone of the backups from Managed WP and use that to basically rebuild the site on a completely different host. I didn't even have to go through the site because the other site was unresponsive. That's one of these things about some of those tools that, like you said, Peter, too. What if the other site you can't reach it, or you don't have admin access? That nasty developer has disappeared and won't give you the keys to the car anymore. What do you do? It's like, well, if you had this running in the background, you can still use the backups from this to rebuild a complete site from a backup. So it's a really nice tool. And again, I think it's well worth it just for if you manage more than one site, having that ability to go and do updates. Again, the sweet spot I think is like if you're doing like 5 to 10 sites or so, then rather than having to go through every single one, log on and do update plugins like that, they'll show you all in one dashboard. And if you're doing backups too, it has that what Peter showed rollbacks too. It'll roll back something. So if a plugin's having an issue because it's managed through here, you can roll it back through this dashboard as well. So there's other ones too. This is just the one. I think again, just they might have got bought by GoDaddy a couple of years ago, but they've kept it separate so far. So GoDaddy hasn't put its hooks into it yet and ruined the product. Well worth checking out. What else we got? What else what are we doing this summer?
I got a couple quick questions. One, for one client, they've got a few customer testimonials, want to put up on the website. I was thinking of just building a quick, custom post type for that. Has anybody had an experience with that, or is there a plugin you recommend that? I mean, it's not really a lot to manage here, but I'm just wondering what you folks might recommend for an approach for that.
Let me ask some questions because that's what I always do. So are these testimonials that they've already gathered someplace? Yes. Okay, so that was one thing, because I had a client recently too who wanted me to create some sort of testimonial gathering thing on the site, and I said, I don't think you want to do that. You want to gather your testimonials on Google,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the testimonials are coming from elsewhere. They just want to present them on the website.
So if the testimonials are actually Google reviews, there are
some of them are, but not all of them.
Okay, I was saying, if they are there are plugins that can pull directly from Google reviews. And again, I don't know the integration paths of those. Otherwise, you probably just want a testimonials block someplace. And again, back to the core blocks that we don't really have from WordPress. Let me show you one from Cadence, because I think this, again, we talked about Cadence before. Cadence can be a little bit confusing too, that there's a Cadence theme.
Well, yeah, but from what I've seen, those blocks are good at just presenting one or a few testimonials, maybe in a slider, but I'm just looking for like a place to organize them. So I'm just wondering if a custom post type would make sense for that, or if there's a plugin that you might recommend.
Well, so I will give you direct feedback based on a project I'm working on, and I decided to go with a custom post type.
Really? Yeah.
The reason I decided to go with a custom post type is because I'm using the testimonials in more than one place.
Exactly.
More than one way. And by setting up as a custom post type, especially if you got into things like this particular client, his testimonials might be from people he placed in the recruiting part of his business, or people he did consulting with, or whatever. So I can have my testimonials and then have a category of, recruitment, and then I could just, like you said, you keep them in one place, and then I can use a post query loop post block to show them any way I want. And then and this whole thing where, and the Cadence one is good for doing exactly what Ray was going to show, and where you're like, I've got 5, I just want to put them, and the formats
are static. I'm
choosing style 1, style 2, style 3. The funny thing is with a lot of the things that you see in blocks where there's styling, the styling is never particularly hard to do once you understand the blocks that you're using. So which is what tools like Generate Blocks they have so few blocks, because they're like, well, all you're doing is using these blocks to build the other block. They're just patterns, right? So that's that type of thing. But in my case, building a custom post type for the testimonials that I can use multiple ways in multiple places is the way I'm going.
And that's where I was leaning. So I think that makes sense for me too, Peter. Yeah, because it is going to be on different pages for different cat reasons. So yeah.
And the only thing I was going to show, and I completely agree with you guys too, but is I think Peter, you're saying as well, if you really look at this is like this is the core, the really, really basic styling of a testimonial block from Cadence, the site's built in Cadence. And again, yeah, these are static. They didn't want a ton of them. They just want a couple on the front page. But yeah, if you were going to create, as you said, a custom post type with all this information, so this would be, whatever person name, location, whatever category, like Peter said, and then this is the headline, the testimonial, and the text of the testimonial. This actual styling thing of, I mean, what is this is really just a border. It's a
Yeah.
border with a little chunk in however you want to do it, and then yeah, so that's the piece that you would have to create.
Yeah.
Either using a regular post type block, which then you'd need to connect to your custom post type, or you'd have to create a template for how you want those, how you want each of these to look, and then in the loop would do that. That'd be actually an interesting project to do, Peter.
Yeah, and I was thinking of doing like a slider, like showing like 3 at a time or something, and having them move through and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks. Yeah, okay. That kind of confirms my
About there's
suspicions
probably
of
a
where I was
plugin that
going.
does that already.
Yeah. So the other question I had is completely unrelated. I've just started playing around with Lottie animations. Has anybody else been playing around with that,
A lot of ones,
Yeah.
or Lottie,
Uh,
Lottie, however you pronounce it?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, other than the fact that, and I know we sound like we're both Cadence users. Cadence has a Lottie block, and there are free Lottie files all over the place, and it takes 2 seconds to put a really nice, smooth animation
Yeah.
on a page. So they're kind of fun when used the right way. I've got to put in the one thing that happens too often with animations is, and I think because Cadence is working really hard to pay attention to accessibility, that I think in their Lottie block they have put in the proper code, which does this one little thing, which is if somebody has put on their screen that they do not want to have put in their computer, they want reduced motion because sometimes motion and animation can make people ill. That's that it respects that, and it's like if somebody has that setting,
Okay.
that it comes up as just a non-moving image, which is fantastic, and I think they do that. But yeah, a lot of animations are wonderful in that they are small and smooth and easy. If you get the right Lottie block, and Cadence has a Lottie animation block that is super easy to see. I'll try to find it. There's a fun site that has all free Lottie animations that you could just go and grab. You just cut and paste them kind of
Well,
thing.
well, I just played around with it and I didn't use any block. I just did pasted the code that Lottie generated into a code block, and that worked fine.
Yeah, exactly. This is
Animations are used sparingly.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like too much salt or too much pepper, use sparingly.
Believe me, I've been around for a long time, going back to desktop publishing when people would put 30 fonts on one page. And so, yeah.
Yep. With great power comes great responsibility.
the link I dropped in for lottiefiles.com is kind of all that's a Lottie animation overload site. There's so many things there and so many tools, but yeah, you could just exactly grab it and say, okay, here's the code, just paste this onto your site and it'll work, or use the block, which I think has some of the built-in controls, like I said, with the stopping for, but yeah, a lot of fun.
So I haven't used, I try to, again, avoid animations now when possible. Again, just more style choice. But one of my sort of biases against animations now isn't even so much the accessibility; it's more a mobile experience with some of this stuff too. So I don't know, are Lotties or anything different about them versus on a mobile platform? They behave well, and
The ones I played around with look fine on the phone.
okay.
Yeah, no, they work. Yeah, the thing about that drives me crazy with animation is one of the the variation of the phrase, just because you could doesn't mean you should, kind of thing, where
Exactly. Yeah.
How many websites do we go to as you're scrolling, every single thing has to move in,
Well,
and that is the biggest.
I was looking for one of the worst offenders I could think of, and believe it or not, it's freaking Apple. And I think about this like, They
Yeah.
don't do it so much, but one of their pages, I remember looking when I was in the market for, it must have been for my Apple Watch or something. Yeah, I'm stuck in their ecosystem, but I think they've actually improved this used to be one of those pages where everything would just like float and fly and just
Yeah.
all it was such a headache even looking at a simple product page. I'm like, I just want to see the specs.
Yeah,
Tell
exactly.
me how much memory it has. And it's like, no, you got to go through pages and pages of it. So yeah, maybe they got the lesson from
I,
somebody.
I'm morbidly entertained by scrolling fast and seeing how much of it is a white blank page because it's all meant to be animated in, which is like unnecessary and terrible. If you use animation, use it effectively. It's like swearing, right?
Yeah.
You got to use
Well,
it, effectively. Otherwise, it's just noise.
There's
It's
no
just
impact. No impact.
well,
annoying.
I've done a lot of public speaking and public speaking coaching and training over the years, and I always tell people it's exactly what you said. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
That's right.
When
Yeah.
you're putting slides together, and even if a graphic doesn't reinforce or support your message, reconsider even using it on a slide. So
Yeah.
whatever, so animation's the same thing. If it doesn't reinforce what you're trying to do, you shouldn't be using it.
That's right.
Well said. What other stuff do we have? Any other horror stories from our sellers of websites or my other quick one, the migration thing, it was another site, or no, it was the cat shelter site. This is what was causing me the issue with that. And again, this is like the week before I was going on vacation. So I don't have it, I don't have the problem I can show anymore. But one thing that got me tangled up trying to fix it, so just real brief, they were on this old site was on HostGator, which again, it's they're cheap. It's a nonprofit. They've been on this thing for years and all that kind of stuff. But something happened again with this cheaper shared hosting where eventually I think their CPU resources got eaten up. The site became unresponsive and all this kind of stuff. And I couldn't even get access to this. I still had FTP access. We talked about this last month of always having a backdoor to get into the site. So at least I could look at logs and all that. But the thing that tangled me up, again, the WordPress developer guy has been doing this thing for years now, is I was trying to log on to the site. So what would happen, the page would come up every now and then, and I was
Yeah.
trying to log on to the WP admin, and it would seem like it was logging me on, and all of a sudden the site would go down. And I did that a couple of times, and silly me, I had installed WordFence on the site. So if anyone knows, so WordFence has a web application firewall. There's rules you set on WordFence. So WordFence, as a Bob, if you're not familiar with it, I saw you nodding there, but so
I'm
one thing that
familiar with it,
WordFence,
yeah.
yeah, the other Bob used that too, but one thing
There's another Bob. Okay.
yeah, one thing that WordFence does, it's supposed to do is it's supposed to prevent hackers from signing in and trying to log on multiple times. Well, guess what? It thought I was a hacker, so it locked me out for a couple of hours because silly me, I set those rules up. So I was getting like tangled in my own, like, oh, I knew it. I said, oh, it's me. And then I tried talking to HostGator's support people who had no clue what I was talking about. They ended up saying, okay, we're going to whitelist this IP address. And I said, I started thinking about like, wait, they're whitelisting me. So they blocked me even further from getting it. Long story short, I like, let me just move the site over someplace else. So this is just one of sometimes, again, having that backdoor thing of there's no way I could get onto the site, and the hosting people themselves were not very helpful. So at least FTP wise, having this other backup thing saved me in the end. So that's my.
So Ray, when you were just sharing that story, you reminded me of a little tip that I learned years ago that I still use. It's so effective and it's almost devious, but I love it. A lot of hackers always try to use the username admin whenever they're trying to access the site, right? So some people just delete admin. I leave it in there, but just remove all access to it. So it's just a complete decoy, right? So they just keep hammering away, and then even if they get access to nothing because there's no level access. So.
That's a good one. Yeah. There's little things like, so now, I mean, so WordFence, I may still have it on the site. Again, if people aren't familiar, again, WordFence itself has been very good. Actually, SiteGround has some decent free security stuff as well too. So WordFence, I don't tend to install it as much anymore on sites.
I had someone recently recommend, was it Fail to Ban? Have you used that one?
No. What was it called again?
I think it's fail to ban. I can double check on that. I
Fail
forget
to
exactly.
ban is a B-A-N?
Fail to ban. Yeah.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Let me
But
double
the nice
check
thing
to
about
make sure that's the
WordFence
name.
is, and I'll show this real. This is my site because I don't care. There's nothing, no secrets on the site. 1 second here. So, again, WordFence itself, if you've never used it before, yeah, it's free. There is a paid version and all that. But the nice thing about the policies, I agree. It does add, so just use it with caution because it'll tell you this too when you install it, because it does make modifications to some really important server files, your HT-access file. If that file really gets screwed up, it allows you to make a backup and download it. But really, caution is if that file gets messed up, you can be completely blocked out of your site. Again, that's why you need an FTP on the back end to replace things. But if anyone's never used this before, it is still very powerful. It does a lot of things. So one of the things it has is this firewall. You can set tons of rules on it. Tons of you can also set things in terms of login security. And it is kind of all in one type of tool. There's other individual tools that'll do pieces of this. So it wasn't the tool itself. It's kind of the way I set it up, and it sort of backfired against me just because, again, the site itself was sort of misbehaving. But it's worth checking out. Just I'll show this real quick if you've never seen it before. So like my site, the firewall rules. It'll tell you countries are. Some of it's a little bit scary too. Another site I launched, like within hours of launching it, you see all the countries that are hitting it. And like, what's going on here? How do these people find out about me? So very powerful. Again, as with any of these tools, use with caution. So that's one of my summer nightmares. Peter, what about you? I thought you said you had something too.
Yeah. I'm just prepping something. I'm gonna show you how I'm using AI
Ooh.
to modify. Well, you could. I don't mind. Yeah, I'll show you now. Kind of. I copied some code over here. Okay, so let me pull this out. Let me put that there. Let me refresh this. So the AI tools I use are ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. I like using Claude to do kind of WordPress coding types of stuff. I am not a coder, but now I am, air quotes, based on using these tools. Interestingly, the one problem I have with Claude is a lot of times I get caught into a thing and it says, even with a paid account, it's like, hey, no, you use too much, see you in 5 hours kind of thing. So,
oh, really? Even with paid?
Yeah, even with a paid, because you've got it's 5 hours versus like 24 hours or something like that. It's the difference. So, but I use those tools. I also use them. I mentioned this a few times, and sometimes I have one check the other, which is kind of a fun way to go. Like, hey, I made this thing. Can you double check to make sure and give me suggestions on more efficient code or security, things like that, or say it's okay. It never says it's okay, but that type of thing. I also use it to generate plugins, but I also do a lot with snippets, and I use WP Codebox, which is a really excellent. It's a paid. They're having a lifetime deal still for WP Codebox 2 right now for managing. And one of the neat things is you can also, like, if you're playing with code snippets, you can also save them up to the cloud to your account, and then I can move them between sites, which is what I just did. One of the things I made is a classic block detector. Let me move this locally. So now I have that here. Doesn't do them, and I'll activate that. So what I created, there's all kinds of things that I'm working on, but some plugins and snippets that I created was to help me with, interestingly enough, the conversation relates back to my, updating a website. And as part of that website, it's like, what's the best way of looking at the content? Years and years and years of content, right? The site goes back to 2017, whatever. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to, as I'm looking at the stuff on the front end, so this is my demo site, so it's not there, but I wanted to, as I was going through content, I wanted to be able to add quick edit tool and then tell me, you know, right up in this toolbar, if you can see it, I can zoom in, but where I have, you know, the date it was originally published with this one, because it's my own new content, but theirs would have been like published, you know, May 12th, 2017 kind of thing. But I get like I had a snippet that is giving me up in the admin bar now this new stuff. This is not WordPress core. This is what I created using AI to do. Give me the publish date and the last mod date, so I can go through like all their posts and go, this published 17 years ago, and now I'm going to like color code them and things like that. So with the goal in this case to allow me to just navigate the site initially, you know, and go from page to page, to be able to say, oh, you know what, I found a page, you know, maybe let's just say I've got this page here that like, and I've come across this, right? An empty page. There's nothing here on the demo site. So I could see, okay, one, it was made in 2023 on this demo site. I also created a plugin that gives me the ability to change the status right from the front end, which is like one of those quick things that, like, you know, you can go edit, wait for the edit page to load, go to publish, change it to, you know, unpublished or whatever. But I was going through I was just navigating the site, and I wanted to be able to go right up here, instead of going to edit the page, this is WordPress core, to my quick edit, and go from publish to maybe I just want to put it as draft. And now this site, this page gets put into draft mode. In fact, if if I'm going to the edit page now, I should see that it's in draft. So just that one click on the front end. So this, with the goal again to be able to just navigate the site and go, oh, found a page, click. You know, I even to put, maybe I said, you know, I've checked this, I just want to trash it, and then it goes away. And now it's like trying to reload a page that's not there. The other thing that I did that was kind of, because this is also migrating from an old site, is I just created a page called Classic. So this, if I edit this post, you can see, so this is now, again, migrating content that was old, and they had, for anybody who knows, it's on the Genesis theme or platform, using a child theme, using all the Genesis coding. This is all pre WordPress core introducing blocks and all the control we have it. So a lot of things are in the classic block, right? So when you move to when you update WordPress and you're using the block editor, if you have old content, you might see that it's in a classic block, so that all of the block is in the old way of editing. And by the way, you can always add the classic block, and if you like editing in this world, you can still do it. But what was kind of neat with this is, on the front end, I added a little flag that says, tell me if you can see a classic block anywhere on this page. And the reason I did this is because as I was navigating, updating, I could keep track on a piece of paper. I can go through, but I just wanted a quick way to go, oh, I haven't touched this page, and I need to convert that. So it's a neat little thing where it's just like, on this page, there happens to be a classic block. Now, what I could do is I can go and I can edit this post. I'm using the WordPress edit. I can go to the classic block. And one thing that's nice about the classic block is that you can, where is it? Why am I not? Oh, I'm in the block. Why am I not? I'm seeing that I want to convert it to regular blocks. I'm not sure why. Convert. You know why? Because in my my toolbar, I'm used to having it be right here. Yeah. And I moved it up to the top. Moved it. I moved it, so I'm going to untop my toolbar. Right. So By the way, anybody doesn't know that if you go into the three dots on the right under options, you have a lot more control over what you're seeing on the screen. And if you don't like block toolbars right next to the block and you can pin it to the top, or you can say keep it with each block. So now that I'm here, what I expected to see here, you can go to if you're using a classic block, now you can convert it to blocks. So now all of the content that was in that classic block gets converted to all the separate blocks. So paragraphs, headings, lists, all those things get automatically converted into blocks. If I save this now and then go back to view the post on the front end, my flag for this as a classic block is now gone because I don't have a classic block anymore in there. I converted it to all the core blocks of paragraph and heading and things like that. So, and that one, what was fun about that one is that one literally took one pass and 2 minutes to copy and paste it that much. I went to Claude. Let's see if what I usually do when I am working in AI is if I create a block or a snippet or a plugin using AI, I will have the link to it there so I can reference it back in case I need to. So you can see in Claude what the conversation was. I wrote to Claude, I would like to create a code snippet for WordPress that checks if a page or post contains a classic block and then puts a simple text indication in the admin bar on the front end. That's all I wrote. And it wrote me this code, which is what I cut and paste in. And then it told me what it does. It tells me how to use it. What I'll see if I see it. It's like you will get it set an orange classic block indicator, which it did. And then, I can always start tweaking this, and so, if I wanted to. But it did. This is one of the few cases where the one prompt gave me the one answer that I pasted in. It did just what I was asking it to do.
So Peter, this one is I'm reading it then what you put in there. So I was thinking, boy, this would also be convenient for you when you're looking at your list of pages, right, on the posts or pages list. But I guess that'd be too much to ask for here because it would have to interrogate that data for every page in that list.
But I bet we could do that. In fact, it's 7:41. I could try it in a few minutes and see, because I do a lot on the admin side too.
Yeah.
So like I will modify, and this is even instead of using there's a plugin for the admin columns, editing and things like that. But it was like, I put in things like in my plugin page, give me a red highlight for any plugin that hasn't been updated in the last 2 years or something like that.
That's true. Yeah. So if it has the data, I guess there.
Yeah, because the data's there. But let's just see if we can take this. I'm always polite to AI because you never know when
the robot overlord's gonna
exactly
rise up.
We also add the ability to, and you don't have to spell correctly, it's just I'm sticking for that. Add the ability to flag posts and pages in the admin lists on the back end.
Yeah, because what's the proper term for those? I guess the pages, the all pages list or something, or all posts. These are posts, right?
So in Claude, it's changing. It uses what's called the artifact, which gives you can see the window as it's doing the code on the right change. So let's see what this gets me. And I like, it comments the code, tells me like, oh, if you want to like add custom column to, but I just saw something that said, here's the styling that you can modify. Let's give it another minute. Okay, so Perfect. Of course, I'm always perfect with AI. It's very happy with our conversations. I've enhanced the code to include that list functionality here, the new features.
Custom
Adds
column, yeah.
Let's say, okay. So
Sounds
we can
like
go
it's just understood, yeah.
Or I can just, so now I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come back to my my snippet manager, WP code box. I'm going to add, I'm not going to modify this one, but I am going to turn this one off. I'm going to disable the active one. I'm going to create a new snippet. I'm going to call it classic block finder. All right. I'm going to take the code. I'm going to paste it in here. One of the things that's nice about WP, and I didn't even debug this code. I didn't go through another tool. WP Codebox, if it finds some obvious things, it will not launch. It'll tell you, I think this doesn't work, which is nice.
Syntax checking or
you don't want to crash your site. So let me save that. And now I'm going to enable it. This is very exciting. Of course, I don't know. I don't think I have any classes. So before I do that, let me come back.
Change it back
here. I'm going to edit the post. I don't know if I have revisions. This is another thing. It's been a while since but let me go back to revisions. If anyone doesn't know this, if you totally change something and you're like, oh, I screwed it up, you can go back to a previous revision. And I want to go to, where is it, Ray?
Just go back one. Yeah, that slider thing on the top.
Yep, exactly.
Go back.
If I go back one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, go to your previous
one.
I only have one. Yeah, right there.
I only have one. So restore this version, revision. They changed. I haven't used this in a while, so now look, I'm back to my classic because I went back to a previous version of the page. It should be fine. I'm going to save it anyway. Let's just see. We're experimenting on the fly. I'm going to open my admin on a new tab. Why? Because it's the habit I do.
Hey, look at that.
Look at that. I've got a new column called classic content, and it is said that page has classic content, and then these are listed as blocks because. But
that's
see, this is the kind of stuff that I've been doing a lot more lately. When it's just like, oh, you know, it would make my life a lot easier when I'm working on the redesign of this site if I can only see which pages have the classic block. Oh, let me ask one of my friends to help me do that. And I did put it on the front end because one of the things I was doing is I was just navigating the site in the front end. But now in the back end, it's a double check because guess what? Not every page is always navigated directly from the navigation, for example.
Well, the nice thing about here is now I assume you could sort it as well too and find all those So yeah, back to your other thing too. Eventually, I guess you can also add the published date and the modified date, those kind of things into here and sort it by that too. Yeah.
Which types of things are done. And also keep in mind that all of these types of plugins, whether it's from the repository, whether it's something you create, when you're using a plugin for fixing something, finding something, that kind of stuff, after you do it, you could disable it or delete it. Like you know, people use I use utility plugins that does the one thing I need for that one moment in time, and then disable it. And then it's like, oh, I'm never going to use it again. I can delete it, you know, remove it from my plugins or whatever. What's nice about Codebox is I can turn, you can see most of the things that I've been experimenting with are off, but I can turn them on. Like one of the things I'm having a lot of fun with is I created a plugin that changes, instead of having, say, I don't like slideshows, but I like that dynamic idea of having different images when you come to a page, so it doesn't feel like you're always looking at the same thing every single time. So I have it randomly create a background image for like a group. And then when you scroll off of it, when you scroll back, it changes, the image gets changed when it's scrolled off of. I could never have coded that, but through, you know, this was a longer conversation because we went through many iterations, but making that kind of thing, because there's no plugin that I know of that exists that does that. You know, so
you're a vibe coder now, Peter. This is it. That's the hip
call me what you will.
You're vibe coded, man.
Yeah. But
I've been using well, I use GPT more than Claude, but for the same thing that you're doing. It's like, hey, I'd like to do, 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 I'd like to do.
that was weird.
That was strange. You got stuck in a strange.
Yeah, Bob, you back with
Oh, I
us?
mean, I thought it was me. Bob,
Me
unmute
too.
yourself. Your audio got stuck in a strange loop. I thought you were like rapping.
Your head kept moving, but we only heard a snippet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it repeated like a hundred
Repeating over and over and over again. I've never heard that on a Zoom call. That was very entertaining. But I think we got the gist, and you can certainly kind of join in again. But yeah, this idea that there are times when there may be a plugin, and probably some of the things I want to do might be.
I'd like to do, I'd like to do, I'd like to do, I'd like.
Well, that was disappointing for him. He had to leave.
Oh no! Yeah,
That was crazy.
That was weird.
That was
I've never
strange.
seen that before.
I know his audio got locked. Oh, you know, and I locked the meeting too. He's not going to get back in. Hold on.
So, but anyway, I hope you had, the folks that are on the call kind of had a little fun with finding,
No, that was great. That was really good. So, well, let's wrap things up there too. I think how can you top that? And I can top Bob. Oh, no, Bob's gonna get back in.
Bob wants to get back in to say hello, so we'll say hello and then goodbye.
I know.
I'd like to do, I'd like to do, I'd like to do, I'd like to do, I'd like to do.
You're stuck.
Wow.
Hey,
Sorry,
Bob,
Bob.
okay, we're wrapping things up anyway. We're
wrapping it up.
So.
Goodbye,
Right.
Bob.
Bye, Bob.
Bye, Bob.
That was awesome. I like that.
A month from now, he'll come back on and say he'd like to do it.
Like to do it. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's end things there. That was awesome. Thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining us. If our summer school thing, we'll be back not too far away.
Thank you.
Couple weeks or
Thank
so,
you,
back to
guys.
our normal schedule. So that's all right. Thanks everyone. Had a great conversation.
Come up with a topic for next time, I guess, right, Ray?
Yeah, we'll meet, Peter. Figure
Very
something
good.
out.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. See ya.
Good night.